Welcome to the Money Down, the Believe Network. We got a special guest here today, NFL running back, Nebraska football legend, Ameer Abdullah, kicking it with us, my dog, jumping on the pod. Been a long time coming.
I know, man. I've been asking for this for a while, man. Because I love y'all's takes, man. I feel like you guys do a really good job. Well, for one, the Money Down connects with me and James for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because obviously our careers at Wisconsin, Nebraska were like the guys. When you get to the league, there's like this transition of like reinventing yourself. You know what I mean? And like you start to realize that third down is where you really make the money.
Yeah.
It's what you really want to do to have a long career like James had. Like I've sustained myself as well. And it's interesting, man, because when you come in, you kind of have that mindset of like, I want to be the guy that carries the ball 30 times a game. But then you realize, like, man, those dudes only hang around like 3-4 years, you know? So even just seeing, you know what I mean? Same thing with you, Soldier. Like, as a corner, you make money on third down.
Third down, yeah.
And it's for you to really be in a run support like that. So it's just like, third down, you know what I mean? Third down is where you make your money. So I just thought it was genius, man. So I'm glad to be on.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you, man. I know we have guests on, man. We like to go back to the beginning. So take me back to Alabama. You're the youngest of 9 siblings, correct? So take me back there playing ball, getting some college interest. What was that like for you?
Yeah, man. I had a really interesting maturation process to how I even came across football. So like you said, I'm the youngest of 9. I got 6 sisters, 2 brothers. And by the time my parents got to me, you know what I mean? Like, they were tired of raising kids. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It was like, yo, you got a lot of siblings, figure it out. So I watched everything my older brothers did, man. So, like, going with my oldest brother, Muhammad, he played at Alabama State. So it's something called the Alabama State versus Alabama A&M Classic every year. It's HBCU Classic in Birmingham that I would go to, and my brother used to play in those games. And that was my first time seeing someone at that level, even though at the time SWAC wasn't as respected as it is now. A lot of guys go to league from SWAC now, but at that time, SWAC ball wasn't where it was. But for me as a kid, seeing that was my first time visualizing myself like, man, this is what I want to do. Everyone came out, the bands came out, all the food trucks and all these people are here to watch these players play. So, I watched everything my brother Muhammad did. And then also my brother Kareem, who's 4 years older than me, we got the same birthday, but we're 4 years apart, which is really, really crazy. So he was really big into sports as well. So I follow him pretty much like Pikachu did Ash, you know what I mean? I follow him with every single thing. And y'all, being from the South, both y'all from Florida, even bigger football state than where I'm from, like football, it raises you, man. I always make the joke that like in the South, it goes football, the church, then your parents. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really does. So like a lot of my just like ways that I still live today were built through the disciplines I learned as a young kid of like, if you want to be great, you got to go compete in the neighborhoods, right? You got to go prove like, I'm the best sandlot football player. So that's really where it started for me, was playing in the backyards, in the backyards of Alabama. And I went to like a really small high school. We didn't have like a lot of, I think it was one other guy back in like the 70s or 80s, which is an interesting concept. Do y'all count players that played pre-70s as great? You know what I mean? Other than Jim Brown, it's a hot take. Other than Jim Brown, are y'all really like putting respect on their name? Because to me, it's some sweat on their rep a little bit. I don't know, but we'll get it to that.
We'll get it.
You know what I mean? Football's changed a lot. But, I went to a school where we have a lot of people as examples, to go D1 and stuff like that. So I was incredibly under-recruited, man. I didn't have any stars or anything until after my senior season. Right. And I played in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Classic, which is like a neighbor state classic we do, best of Alabama versus best of Mississippi. And I got an MVP in that game, and that's when things start to kind of roll for me. But really, man, it was my brother Kareem, who I mentioned earlier, who got me playing football. He begged my dad to let me play because, like I said, I would follow him all around, and I would play with kids that were older than me. So when I was 8, I was playing with 12-year-olds. So I was getting a lot better, a lot faster. And I didn't realize it until I actually was placed in middle school with my actual grade. You know what I mean? You playing up for so long, then you get to 7th grade, and I was like think Tavon Austin versus Oklahoma. You
Yeah.
know, like God level. You know what I mean? Like for real. So Alabama, we don't have any proteins or anything. So I grew up also a really big Auburn football fan. So like
Okay.
watching Ronnie Brown, watching Carnell Williams,
Cadillac.
which ironically, Cadillac Williams was my running back coach last year with the Raiders. So it was kind of like a full circle.
Oh,
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right?
that's crazy. No, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I was telling him like, bro, I grew up watching you, man. It's crazy you coaching me now, but I watched the Jason Campbells,
Jason Campbell.
those type of teams growing up that just really made me. My biggest goal was to play D1. I never really saw the NFL for me, just because growing up in Alabama, it's a very small market of like homegrown football. Friday night lights, and then college football was the premier.
Yeah.
So me getting to Nebraska was an interesting route because I actually was a DB. I was actually a DB, and that's how I thought I was going to have to make it, because I'm an undersized running back, and like in our era, James, if you're an undersized running back, bro, that's a death sentence, bro.
Yeah.
That's a death sentence, bro. If you sub 5'11", sub 6 feet, and you trying to make it big D1 playing football, bro, it's a stigma that's very hard to shake. Very hard to shake, man. And, I was 5'8", 160 soaking wet in high school, you know what I mean? But I was always an instinctive DB, so it's interesting. In the Alabama Mississippi All-Star game, I played DB, and that's how I got MVP. I had 2 interceptions that game, and then I got invited to where I actually met Melvin Gordon for the first time. He was my roommate. First time I met Melvin Gordon was this bowl game we played in called the OD Bowl. And it was like,
dang, offense, defense camp.
Yeah.
Y'all playing that game?
No, I ain't playing.
So
it.
I ain't playing the OD Bowl, but when I was a kid, they had it down at FIU.
FIU.
And it was like a camp where you go for a couple of days. So I end up going out there and seeing a lot of it's dope. It is dope.
It was cool, but it definitely was the stepchild of the All-American.
Yeah.
It definitely was a Cinderella. It was a stepchild. We had to stay in the attic. You know what I mean? It wasn't the Under Armour game. It wasn't the Army All-American game. But it had some talent, man. Like Jeremy Hill was in that game, I remember. Cardell Jones, quarterback going to Ohio State, was in that game. Okay. Melvin Gordon, we all know how great Melvin is. Like Melvin was in that game, and that was my first time meeting him. He was my roommate actually in that game, and I got 2 interceptions in that game too. And that's when Nebraska actually started to recruit me, and I had no offers. My biggest offer at the time was Tuskegee. This is like 2 weeks before. This is my senior year. This is 2 weeks before signing day. I was going to go to Tuskegee, call it a day, you know what I mean, be cool. But Nebraska ended up offering me a scholarship there to play defensive back at Nebraska, which is crazy. Yep. But the way I ended up becoming a running back there was they had a guy. His name was Braylon Hurd. He was having some academic issues, at running back, so they wanted to make sure they had the depth they had. They already had Rex Burkhead, who we knew was going to be the guy. And then they had signed a 5-star running back named Aaron Green out of Texas. So I was afterthought of the afterthought, but they still wanted some depth. So that summer, they was like, oh, we're going to need you to kind of work in at running back just to help us out. And then the rest kind of it just kind of worked out that way where I ended up sticking. So
that's a crazy story, especially like when you did get there. Did you have a want to play DB? Because like you said, you was in high school, you making plays, you catching interceptions, offense defense camp, you catch 2 picks, and even your All-Star game that for your state rival, you had a couple books too. So how was that like that conversation of? Nah, Amir, like, we need you for depth versus, like, man, I could actually get on the field at corner now.
I wanted to play running back, man. My story was I wanted to play running back. Okay. Yeah, like, I remember crying all the time. I used to come home because that summer before my senior year, I was going to every camp. If it was a camp happening, I was going. I was driving with my dad in our old school jalopy, bro, the Mississippi Southern Miss. Went to Middle Tennessee one time, man, with the TC Tech. Went to an Auburn camp, showed out. Went to an LSU camp, showed out that camp, nothing. You know what I mean? And I was going there to play running back. You know what I'm saying? And I was really feeling like because of my size was the main reason why. Because I want to say like the only person who had more yards than me my senior year rushing was T.J. Yeldon that year in the state of Alabama. Which Alabama's a big football state, so. For me to I think I was like second or third in the state my senior year in rushing, and nothing at all. So I'm a little bit of a delusional guy. I'm not gonna lie. Like I tell myself that something's gonna happen until it actually happens.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I think that was just a product of me being in my prayer and me also just like telling myself like it was gonna happen, but it just didn't happen how I thought it would. You know what I mean? I thought it would be like this outright recognition from the jump of like you're a running back. But it kind of happened by, the turn of the tides that the plan that God had for me of just like, all right, I'm gonna delay this guy's journey, which Braylon ended up having his own journey as well as a running back. But I'm gonna delay his journey to open up a door for you, which, my mindset, it was the best thing for me because it kept me really dynamic. DB, I'll be honest, DB is the most athletic position on the field. I tell people that all the time, and they don't necessarily understand it because, you see these DBs, sometimes they're not like the most physical looking, cats out there. They're not DK Metcalfs, you know what I mean, just walking around. But you're running backwards the entire game. Your entire position is based really off of instincts. If you want to be good at DB, it's based off instincts. It ain't based off of like, oh, I'm just covering my third, or I'm just covering my quarters. It's like, no, you got to see it before it happened, and that takes balance. That takes a very like sound foundational base where like you got to be under yourself. You know what I mean? It takes rhythm. DBs are always the best dancers. Every locker room I've been in, the DBs are always the
best. Our boys know I can't, fam. I can't dance to save my life. But it's so crazy because right, like my mom and dad really got so much rhythm. They can dance the whole night, and they always say with me like I got two left feet. But when it come to like DB drills and all that stuff, like I've always been the best at it. So it's just,
but that in itself is a dance. That in itself is a dance. Like understanding like your rhythm of I'm out of my break. You know what I mean? That in itself is a dance. But the reason you probably can't dance is because we went to white institutions. That growth was killed from day
somebody
one.
got it. At least somebody say it. It's facts.
It ain't all fault. It ain't all our fault, bro. We went from Florida, probably where it was hella black, Alabama where it was hella black, to Wisconsin, Nebraska where it's just like, hey, bro, it ain't really shaking out up there.
Really not shaking out.
So you had that. So you get to Nebraska. How'd that conversation go about switching to running back? Did you approach coach with that, or did he come to you?
It was pretty immediately. You know what I mean? Like that first summer I got there, it was some conversations with Coach Bo, who was my head coach at the time, about playing DB. We had a defensive back named Alfonso Denard at the time, who was like an All-American, really really good corner, and but he was a crash out. Dude was a crash out for sure. So
he was with me in New England.
Oh yeah, you did.
That's Darquez's cousin.
Yeah, that lineage is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. Them boys.
They had a guy named this dude named Stanley John Baptiste, who was really good as well.
Okay.
And, real big corner. And that's real young corners. We had a lot. We had a lot of young corners. He was just like, look, we need more depth at running back right now than we need defensive back, which was music to my ears, man. Like it really was like, yes, this is what I wanted because like the Rivals accounts and stuff. I was listed as an athlete. I was like positionless almost. So like when I got there, the conversation happened after the first week. We did our strength and conditioning training. It was like, look, we're gonna keep you at running back for now and see how that kind of works out. And it was an uphill battle because Rex Burkhead was only I think a sophomore at the time. Yeah. Sophomore, no, he was going to his junior year. Then we signed a 5-star running back. His name was Aaron Green. And then Braylon Hurd, the guy I mentioned earlier, who's had academic issues, ended up qualifying later that summer, and he ended up showing up. So I was like fourth on the pecking order, really. But we got to camp, man, and you know how it is. You got to compete. You know what I mean? So I think what I brought really initially was the flexibility that I can play more than one position. I was always a return man as well. I still do that now with the league. Punt return, kick return. And I think that kind of was what edged me out, over the other guys initially. And then, I don't know, sophomore year, I really just put in the work. But, yeah, man.
So sophomore year is when it kind of like all clicked together. That's when it started. Because I know for me, right, I'm younger than both you and James. And, I just remember coming in and obviously when you play Nebraska, we circling 8. Like my freshman year, we circling 8. Like Ameer, we got to figure out how we gonna stop this guy. So when did it actually click to you? Like, man, like I'm actually hooping at this, and this could really be my. I won't say way into the league, but it's like when it all start to come together and click. Like I'm fire at this.
I'm gonna go back a little bit, even back to before my senior year in high school. I think it clicked when I was a huge Kobe Bryant fan. That's the reason why I wore number 8.
Yeah.
Real huge Kobe Bryant fan, and I was reading this excerpt from Tim Grover, and he had a chapter in his book about Michael Jordan and Kobe. Which the conversations always go who's to go, Kobe, Mike, LeBron, all that stuff, and Tim Grover's perspective on it was if he had to start a team, he's picking Kobe 10 out of 10 times, which shocked me because when I look at like athletic, I feel like Kobe is just a remix of Jordan in a lot of ways, right? And he's not as athletic as Jordan. Jordan was Black Jesus. They called him Black. He was Air Jordan. You know what I mean? The emblem, all that stuff. But what set Kobe apart was he could set a plan and he could stick to it. So the summer before my senior year, I read this excerpt where Tim Grover said before Kobe's MVP season, he wrote a contract out to himself. And he said he was going to work out a certain amount of times a day in order to like improve certain things. And Kobe would wake up at 5 a.m., work out again at 7, take a break, work out again at 10, take a break, work out again at 1, you know what I mean? Take a break and have his afternoon workout. And each session was specific for a certain thing. Where like if he's at the 10 o'clock workout, he's just doing the turnaround jumper the entire time, which a lot of people get bored of like doing that little stuff time and time again. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this because, like, I wanted to play D1 football. I wrote a contract out to myself. My mom can attest for this story where I lived in this neighborhood that was super hilly. So I would in the morning, I would wake up in the morning, I would run to our YMCA, come back, and then I would go to our school workouts, come back. And then in the afternoon, I would work out with my trainer. His name is Otis Leverett. And, so I was working out 3 times a day for like 6 to 5 days a week, as opposed to my peers who were working out 1 time a day for, 5 days a week. So I'm getting 15 to 18 workouts in 1 week compared to their 5, which that's just math. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And I say this to a lot of young cats where like, if you just double down on your time spent on something, you're going to improve. It isn't always this like innate super freaky ability that you have to have in order to be great. It's like, will you get tired of doing it? That's really what it is. And that template, I really just copied from from that last summer before my senior season in high school to going into my sophomore year. I did the exact same thing. Like freshman year, I was just trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? I went, 16, 17 hours away from home. That was different. It was cold. I wasn't really used to the cold, snow and stuff.
Nebraska like too.
College curriculum, you know how much different that is. Study in high school where you get all these study guides for tests that is directly what's going to be on the test. Where you got to really figure it out yourself. So freshman year was kind of me just figuring out my bearings and stuff. But once I was able to make a couple splash plays, I returned to kick off my freshman year against Fresno State, Derek Carr, and Devontae Adams. And that's what really started to get the trust from my teammates and my coaches of this guy can contribute. So I was able to make some splash plays my freshman year, scored in our last bowl game against a very talented South Carolina team with Jadeveon Clowney, Melvin Ingram, Stephon Gilmore, DJ Swearinger. They had one of those defenses. We got smacked. Yeah. We got smacked. But I how it is. As a young player, those bowl games really are the trajectory for that next year. Just your mindset going of this is easier than what I thought. You know what I mean? Or I'm more capable to do this rather than what I thought. Where that same summer, going into my sophomore year, I did the same thing. Where I was working out 2 to 3 times a day, and I couldn't do 3 because them college summer.
I'm about to say, boy, you ain't gonna make it.
But I was making sure I was doing stuff, and I was really intentional, just working on literally just getting out my stance. Because for us, we when I was there, I don't know what Nebraska's doing as much now, but we were zone read because we had Taylor Martinez, who was super fast.
Taylor Martinez.
Our base run game was outside zone. So as James, the main thing about outside zone is getting off the rock.
Yep.
Bro, if you can sprint and get off the rock and really make them linebackers think like, oh, he really might get the edge. You know what I mean? Like, you got to move them off their spot. Got to move them off their spot. So, like, that summer, I was just doing real simple work where I would just, after I work out, I would just do like 200 reps of just outside zone reads, just sprinting, getting the ball, just sprinting. You know what I mean? So I was doing that, and I saw my jump from freshman year, not only my body, but just my IQ for the game jump tremendously, where I think, my sophomore year ended up being a year that really like changed my life because I wasn't slotted to be the starter. Rex Burkhead was going to his senior year, but in our second game against Southern Miss, he sprains his MCL. You know, so now I'm starting. Now I'm thrown in there as a starter, right? And I go in that year and I end up starting, I think, like 7 games that year, but I end up rushing for 1,000 yards that game. And I can really think back to like what really like made me ready for that moment. It was like my fundamental like reflexes were so keen because that summer before I was just doing a bunch of jump cutting and I was just doing a bunch of just tracks. Where like even when I was tired, I would stay on my track because as the game goes, that's when stuff starts to unfold. Like I said all the time, like the first 2.5 to 3 quarters, the real players ain't really showing up yet. The real players start to show up like a little bit in the third quarter when things start to get tired and your habits start to come out, like, subconsciously, where what you do when you tired really starts to show up. So I was like really, really on my like tracks. So if a linebacker was scraping over the top, but that wasn't really his true, innate,
expose it.
He starts to lag a little bit, so I'm still on my track. So now instead of me cutting back behind the guard, I'm getting the edge. You know what I mean? And then now it's like, okay, 6-yard gain. Oh, 40-yard gain. Oh, man, he took it 70. So it's like, I was really good with that jumping from my freshman to sophomore year because of that summer regimen that I implemented in my life that really, I think, changed my perspective of like, oh, not only can I make it in the league, I can be one of the top backs selected, in my class if I continue this, this template for myself.
Speaking of that, you go from that guy who just trying to figure it out. Sophomore, you get the opportunity to start. Your junior, senior year, you go back-to-back, 1,600-yard years. So, one of the top backs in the country.
That boy, for sure.
really out there cutting up, going for 200 yards.
Y'all being nice right now. We're going to address the elephant in the room soon.
No. We talking about that game in December.
Which one? Y'all smacked us like
we had 2, but so I was trying to link it up because Rex, that was Rex senior year, right? Because they
y'all beat him championship game.
Yeah, y'all beat him in Nebraska when y'all wore them special jerseys.
Yeah,
and I just remember it's so crazy, right? Because y'all older than me, so. All these games that year before, like when they played in the Rose Bowl, when they played y'all twice that year, I watched because I was gonna commit to Wisconsin. So I watched those games. I just remember like, damn, it sound loud as hell in Nebraska. Like I can't hear nothing. So we're gonna address it for sure.
We go straight to it. All right.
So,
y'all beat them the first time, so you gotta.
Well, you gotta go back even further than that because my freshman year we go to Camp Randall. My freshman year was the first year in the Big Ten. Right when I committed to Nebraska, it hadn't even been like addressed that they were moving to the Big Ten yet. I thought I was going to play Texas, Missouri. You know what I mean? I'm Big 12. I'm in the South. So I'm already kind of mad because I'm like, bro, I got to play Penn State in the cold. I got to play Michigan in Ann Arbor. I got to play Wisconsin. I didn't even know where Wisconsin was on the map. You know what I mean? So I was but I knew Wisconsin got them boys. You know what I mean? I knew I was, and then they had gotten Russell Wilson as a transfer. Gotten Russell Wilson, bro. We go up there, man. We hanging with y'all probably like the first quarter and a half. Taylor Martinez threw a pick right before halftime. That first time we played y'all.
Right on the goal line.
Bro, Nick Toon and Jared Aberdarius, bro. When I tell you, Jared Aberdarius is the greatest college receiver I've ever seen, bro. That's a name right there. People don't be thinking about Jared Aberdarius, but dude was cold. Him and Russell Wilson was legit Tom Brady and Randy Moss. He was like, throw it up, he down there somewhere, bro. Aberdarius was coming down with that rock, bro. We couldn't do nothing with him. Monty Ball was going crazy. James was going crazy. Even freshman Melvin got a little time. I'm like, crazy. Melvin ain't even supposed to be touching the field yet, bro. Like, crazy, bro.
That game was where I do remember that vividly.
It was game of the week, and y'all smacked us on TV because y'all was like 10 and we was like 12 in the nation. You know, it was a big game, bro. Smacked us on TV.
That's the year y'all should have went to the Nash, James. That was the two Hail Mary losses. What, Michigan State and O State.
Somebody on that team wasn't living right. Somebody had some karma. Somebody
ain't living right.
That was supposed to be our year. I remember that game too. We definitely circled that. That was our first Big Ten game. I'm sure it was that y'all first Big Ten game of that season. And we knew y'all was supposed to be pretty good. We was like, we're gonna welcome them to the Big Ten type joint. And we definitely came out firing. I mean, it wasn't really me. It was Monty. It was Mel. I mean, it wasn't Mel. It was Monty, Aberdarius, Nick Toon, and Russ, and the defense. They was on fire.
I ain't gonna lie. I'll tell y'all boys, bro. So you know me, I'm from the South, bro, and I done covered. So when I was coming up, that's when 7-on-7 had started to like pick up. So on my 7-on-7 team, we had Duke Johnson, right, running back, went to Miami. We had Tracy, all those guys. Tracy Howard went to Miami. Deion Bush went to Miami. Amari Cooper ended up posting to go to Miami. Like Miami went and recruited him. He went to Bama. It's just so many receivers that was on that team. So I kind of felt like, you know, I can cover damn near anybody. So I get to Wisconsin. I come to Wisconsin early, and all I kept saying is, you know, it's no way I'm going to let no white boy do me like this, bro. It's just not possible. And I found out very, very fast exactly what you're talking about with Abby. Like, bro, honestly, I would say at that point when I got there, unguardable, like, he was so cold with the late hands. Like, it just was so much stuff that he was advanced at that, like, I had never seen before, obviously, because I had just got to college. But, man, Abby was one of them ones for sure. Like,
yeah, man.
He definitely killed a lot. He took a lot of people up through there. And I'm sure a lot of people felt the same way I did. Yep. I'm sure Bradley Roby felt the same way I did, bro.
Yeah. And what was crazy is, like, that week, anytime I played y'all, our defense's theme was third and Aberdarius. Third and Aberdarius.
The ball going.
The ball is going to Aberdarius. We don't know exactly how, but the ball is going to go to Aberdarius, bro. And to know that and still not be able to stop it, bro, is why I say with my own two eyes, bro, he was one of the greatest college receivers I've ever seen. For sure. And the body type doesn't marry up, but he reminds me of like Puka Nacua. He was super tough at the catch point, bro. Yeah. When I tell you, like, come back, you can be all over his back, he like, I'm coming with that, bro. Like, Aberdarius was nice. I got an opportunity to play with him for a short extent with the Lions.
In Detroit,
and I got to meet him as well, and he's exactly what I thought he would be, bro. A blue collar, like, you know, farm boy who just like to have a good time with his family, bro. And I really respect him, man. Shout out to Jared Aberdarius, bro.
Shout out to my guy Sticks. That's what I call him, man. That's my dog. He was definitely one of the most underrated players in the country. I thought he would have had a long NFL career, but, you know, sometimes that's how
sometimes
it all shake out with situations and all that, which we'll definitely get into. So, you know, you get drafted second round to the Detroit Lions. You know, one of the top backs to come off that board. What was that moment like from the kid who, you know, didn't think you would ever have the opportunity to make it to the NFL? You know, now you're here.
Second round?
Yep. Second round.
Who all was in your class? I don't mean to cut you off, but I know.
Class, bro. It was
go second. You got to be gangster.
Yeah. With Todd Gurley,
running back.
It was Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, T.J. Yoden, Jay Ajayi, David Johnson, Duke Johnson, Mike Davis. Shoot, man. Thomas Rawls was in that class. Some of the sleepers, you know what I mean? Some of the sleepers. It was for myself. It was a pretty It was a pretty loaded class, man. Pretty loaded class. It was.
Yeah, 2 first-round backs, too.
2 first-round backs. And it was an important class. I always say that was an important class because it kind of brought the premise back to the running back position of being first-rounders. I think the year before, the first back taken was like Giovanni Bernard. I think it was like Giovanni. No,
it was the year before. My year might have been
Bishop Sankey.
Bishop Sankey.
Bishop Sankey from Washington.
Yeah.
He ended up going to Tennessee Titans. Bishop Sankey. And so I feel like that class was important because it kind of set the foundation where you see like Genty just went 6 overall. You know what I'm saying? Which is like, we want that. We want more running backs to get the respect, in my opinion, I feel like the position needs because you see it in the playoffs, man. Every team's going to rely on that run game when it comes down to it. Seal the deal. And if you got a guy who can really, take care of business, then it just makes that process a lot easier for you. But, yeah, man, that moment for me was crazy. It was a lot of different things going on. Like the Patriots, actually, interesting enough, they called me the first day. And it was like, we came to see you at Nebraska. What was that dude? It might have been Dabo. Ballhead. Who was the tight end coach at that time?
Oh, yeah, Dabo. Yep, Dabo. Yeah,
Dabo. He called me, and they were talking about, if I was there at 32, they may look at me. Which, at that time, I'm looking at all the backs at y'all roster. I'm trying to think who y'all had. Y'all had Stephen Ridley.
LeGarrette Blunt.
Me. I'm just like, that don't even make sense. You know what I mean? But whatever. You know what I mean? Bill Belichick does a lot of unorthodox things, right? So whatever. That ain't happening. They end up picking Malcolm Brown, D-tackle from Texas. And, first round's gone, which I thought it was a chance for me to slip in the first round. But, I was more set on, second or third round for sure. And top of the second round, the Arizona Cardinals called me. So the Cardinals they're like 10 picks away. And Bruce Arians, cool story again, he used to host a camp at Hoover High School in Birmingham, Alabama that I would go to. And when I was a kid, I was like 12, I got MVP at this camp. And, jokingly, he was like, I'm going to see you in the NFL one day. Bruce Arians told me this. He calls me, second round starts, Arizona's like 10 or 11 picks away, and he's like, Ameer, what I tell you, man, I'm going to see you in the league, man. We're going to take you with our next pick. So I'm hyped. I'm like, bro, this is great. Arizona,
Phoenix would have been way better than Detroit.
Hey, listen, we can get into that. We can definitely get into that. Because, man, it was a tough road bouncing back from that. But, I had met with Detroit once at the Senior Bowl. And Senior Bowl was probably my best thing throughout the scouting process. You know how it is. The combine, pro day, it's a lot, bro. It's a lot of different things. But the Senior Bowl was the one thing I can say I was like really locked in on, bro. Like I had some examples of guys who had played in it before. It was special to me because it was in my home state of Alabama. So I was like, I really want to show out. So I was going to bed every night at like 7 p.m., waking up and Senior Bowl. Did you play Senior Bowl, James?
I played that. That helped me too.
Right. Yeah, James won MVP. I did. James, you won MVP. I ain't playing the Senior Bowl.
I won MVP in that y'all too.
Y'all boy, Senior Bowl MVPs.
But listen, the way they kind of set you up is like when you come downstairs, they got donuts, they got candy
everywhere.
James told me about the Reese's, bro. I'd have been
me backpack full.
I'd have left there with a backpack full of them things.
So you come downstairs and it feels like a celebration all the time. But it's like you can't let yourself celebrate at that moment because people are watching you. And then you got to go practice. And them Senior Bowl practices are like training camp, bro. We doing blitz pickups, one-on-one. Bro, listen, I'm trying to remember who the linebacker was, bro. I don't even know if he even had like really much of an NFL career. But come out of college, it was this linebacker, Jeff Luck.
Yeah. He from Florida.
Where Jeff Luck went? From Florida. Jeff Luck.
Big Jeff, bro. Linebacker, bro. He went to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He went to Cincinnati. Bro, we going through. My running back coach at the Senior Bowl was Sylvester Kroom. Super old school, like blue collar, like, I want the best on best. So we doing blitz pickup. He made me go with Jeff Luck every time. I didn't have a Michael Jordan salt in my shoes growth spurt. I'm still a small guy. You feel me? Like I'm still considered an undersized back. I'm thumping with him every single day, bro. But I held my own, and I had a really good week. And then, like I said, following that up with the MVP performance at the Senior Bowl, I met with the Lions one time. Like one time. It was like real subtle. I met with the running back coach, talked to him about, how I saw life, what I enjoyed about the game of football, and that was it. Didn't talk to him at all at the combine, didn't come to my pro day, nothing. So I'm not even thinking about Detroit, like, at all. I'm on the phone with Bruce Arians, bro, and, I'm hyped. He's like, stay on the phone. We don't want nobody else to take you. Just stay on the phone. We're trying to move up. But no one would trade with them. They couldn't move up. So I'm like, all right, cool. I had to go outside at this time because my sisters, they grew up with football with me, but they still are disconnected. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the pecking order of like running backs that were like projected to be taken were Todd, of course, Melvin, of course, and then me was supposed to be the next one. But TJ Yoda ended up getting picked before me, right, to Jacksonville. So me and my agent, we sitting there like, yo, what's going on? Like, am I about to slide? You feel me? Like, what's going on? So, TJ goes, a bunch of picks go by, because TJ was like, I think the second pick in the second round, something like that, to Jacksonville. A bunch of picks go by. My sisters are like, why you ain't get picked yet? What's going on? Like, which is just like, bro, read the room. Read the room, bro.
So relax.
Like, relax, bro. Like, that's not what you need to ask. So I had to leave. I'm walking around the neighborhood with my brother, who was my agent at the time. And that's when I'm on the phone with Arizona. And I'm on the phone with Bruce Arians, and then I get a 313 phone call coming through. And it didn't even register. I'm like, 313, what's going on?
I just thought of Eminem just now. 8 Mile. Everybody
ignored the call?
8 Mile. You know what I'm saying? So I ignored the call, and then they start calling my brother. My brother's like, Detroit's about to take it with their next pick. So I have to tell Bruce Arians on the phone, like, Detroit's about to take me. And they start calling me again. He's like, don't pick up. Don't pick up. I did not. Like, I can say this now because I'm not a Detroit Lion no more, but I did not pick up, bro. And, and they picked me anyways. Picked me without a phone call. They literally picked me without a phone call, bro. I go, my family already cheered, and I'm kind of like, I'm excited because I'm off the board, still. But my mindset was already, like, I'm going to live. Easy. You know what I mean? No state income tax. I'm thinking all types of stuff about Arizona. You know what I mean? So that was a crazy little draft day story. But, when I got to Detroit, they were still in that rebuild mode, for sure, rebuild mode. We had Calvin Johnson and we had Matthew Stafford, but everything else was patchwork, to say the least. It was definitely patchwork. And it was an experience for me, man. It was an experience of, like, rookie year. I had a really good rookie year. And then second year, I hurt my foot. I'm out for the season. And then you know how the league is. They don't wait for you. So that next year, they drafted back to kind of, to compete with me. I ended up beating him out. But I tore my Liz Frank my second year in my foot, which is like it's like the ACL of your foot. Right. So that injury kind of takes like 2 years to come back from. So that third year, I was kind of a shell of myself a little bit. I think I rushed for like 600 yards, added another like 200 yards, receiving, which ain't terrible, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, they drafted me second round. So they wanted me to be like the main guy. But you know how it is in some of those situations, James, where like where Saquon was in New York, you know what I mean? Where they want you to be the guy, but they don't necessarily always set you up to be in the best position. They're not drafting no linemen. You feel me? Like, they expect you to go out there and do all this stuff. So, like, listen, I'm not gonna say no names because I don't want us to get to them. But, bro, we had a lineman that literally had gout, bro. Dude had gout. Dude would miss games. Bro, this is the NFL, bro. This is the top of the top, bro. And I'm out here trying to be the bell cow for you. And my right tackle has gout, bro. And I'm never gonna forget because me and Glover.
I'm gonna go look, fam. We ain't gotta say no names, but I'm gonna go look.
Off the camera, I'll tell you his name. I'll tell you his name off the cameras. But I'm laughing because me and Quandre Diggs, who was my roommate when I first got to Detroit, and Glover Quinn, we laughed about it, bro, just because, like, dog, we had Khalil Mack get traded into our division. I remember he gets traded to the Bears. Yeah. And I'm sitting there like, bro, this dude got gout, and he about to be going up against every single snap. I'm finna be chipping my life away all day. Big chip.
Who else was it? Because obviously, I mean, you know, the Vikings always had good D linemen.
Yeah,
Great line.
Everson Griffin.
Khalil Mack get traded into, and then Green Bay won. Green Bay.
Oh,
had them boys up front too.
Bro, Clay Matthews was at the end of his career around that time.
I
can't remember who else was on that Green Bay team. Green Bay was kind of down defensively a little bit. Offense is where Green Bay was at their best at that time. Aaron Rodgers was willing
Aaron Rodgers,
Devontae Adams, Eddie Lacy, James Starks. You know, they had
James Jones.
Who they had?
I know you're talking about Michael Finley. Was it not Jermichael Finley? Was it? No.
It might have been. Actually, their offense was willing and dealing, but Minnesota's defense was crazy with Tom.
Already, Minnesota, boy.
Everson Griffin is a psychopath.
Crazy.
Dude was a force. Everson Griffin, a young Daniil Hunter, you know what I'm saying? Like Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, Hitman Harrison Smith, who's still doing it at a Pro Bowl level too. Trey Waynes, you know what I mean? Trey Waynes, that's a Wisconsin guy who ended up going to Michigan State. Xavier Rose had a real good defense, bro.
X was still good.
He's the original crash out.
Yeah, he definitely was a crash out.
Who is? Who?
Tendejo.
White boy safety.
He ended up playing for Philly.
Yeah.
Oh my!
One of the originals.
I've never messed with.
I'm wondering what's wrong with some of these people, bro. Like, you don't care at all. You got a family to go to after this. Like, you could crash out, but come on, bro. You taking out your own team.
It's funny because I feel like this whole podcast episode transpired from my comment on one of y'all's posts about Bob Sanders and that era, bro.
Yeah.
We so lucky we missed that era, bro. Oh my God. We so lucky. Could you imagine third down, Bob Sanders disguised and then coming out the sky at the snap trying to blitz? Bro, Sean Taylor trying to pick up Sean Taylor.
Troy. I'm trying to think. Troy, Ryan Clark. I mean,
bro, they jumping over
Ed, like, bro.
Cam Chancellor. I caught the end of Cam Chancellor. I caught the end of. Thank God, I caught the end of Cam Chancellor, bro. Like, bro, real crash out era, bro. It was different. LaRon Landry, like, bro.
LaRon, that boy orange, boy.
You can't tell me you wasn't on that sauce. That boy was on
definitely
had to.
It was OD.
Had to.
So let's take it. You go from getting drafted 2015. You play your 3 years there in Detroit. Get to 2018. Matt Patricia comes in as the new head coach there. Talk about that. I know Matty P my dog, but I know everything ain't cool.
He's my dog too. It's a business, bro. It's a business. It's a business. Like, one thing that I had to learn really young, because I was always the afterthought, was don't take nothing personal. You know what I'm saying? Take it as motivation. Don't take nothing personal. If someone makes a decision, they're doing it out of what they feel like is the best for them in that moment. And to try to make that about you is keeping the main thing out of the viewpoint. You know what I mean? I try to keep the main thing. But when Matty P came in, that Patriot way. That Patriot way is something that some people lean into and some people have a hard time doing, just because a lot of people want more of an independence or self-autonomy in their career, where they're more of the focal point. And he definitely brought the Patriot way from the standpoint of, like, it's my way or legitimately the highway. And I felt like I got kind of stuck in a situation that was just like, it was tough for me to really succeed. I was coming off a third year that was like pretty average. They fired my coaches. I had surgery before, actually 2 surgeries at that point. I had a shoulder surgery after my rookie year for a labrum, then second year my foot. So I'm a banged up running back, who's coming off average numbers in that third year. They drafted Kerryon Johnson in the second round that year, and then they signed LG, which, shout out to LG, that's my dog. Real, that's my dog. Cool dude right there. Then we already had Theo Reddick, who was kind of slotted, which I think I always thought Theo Reddick's presence, I've learned a lot from him, but Theo Reddick's presence always kind of cut me from up under, because it was like a hat on a hat. You know what I mean? Like, we do the same things, but Theo had already established that rapport with Matthew Stafford, where him and Stafford were third downs. So it kind of regulated me just to, or like delegated me to just early down work, which the system that Matty P wanted to put in, he wanted a bigger back. He wanted the LGs to kind of do. So it kind of put me in a weird place where talent-wise, I had finally shook back. It's so crazy, James. Going into that fourth year, I think I texted you randomly, or like messaged you randomly that year, like asking for some film or something just to study your game. Because I've always looked up to James White, bro. Like the way you've always like been so successful in between the tackles as a runner, most underrated aspect to your game, bro. Most underrated aspect to your game, bro, because James is a dude that, like, I look at Ashton Genty, I'm like, that's what that is. Contact balance, bro. Contact balance is crazy. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people think in the NFL is about running people over. It's like, no, it's about being able to take the contact, but kind of go with the contact to propel you into like spin moves and those extra yards, bro. So I was like, man, I need to start watching James because I saw the success you were having in New England. So I used to always ask Matty P actually for your film, but you kind of know when they have their decisions made as an organization of like, we're moving on, but they didn't want to move on from me fully. It was a weird year. Best training camp I've ever had, bro. Best training camp I've ever had where I'm catching like one-handed passes, I'm making the tough grabs, but they had already I had no more guaranteed money on my contract.
Yeah.
They had already drafted Carry-On. They had already signed LG to like a 1-for-4, all guaranteed deal. So, you know, the money was kind of implicated, but they kept me on the roster. It was really weird, man. Like they wouldn't trade me and they kept me on the roster. So I was literally for the first, I want to say like 6 or 7 games, a healthy scratch, bro, just inactive. And that's the wicked part about the league, that sometimes like you got to keep your faith because you never know, you know, once you lose your faith is when it all kind of crumbles for you. But dude, I was finally healthy again. I definitely felt like I was a better back than Carry-On at the time, you know, just because he was youthful. I was faster, I was quicker, you know what I'm saying? But he was younger, so, you know, they didn't want to go in that direction. But dude, I literally was just a healthy scratch. They didn't want to cut me, and they didn't want to trade me. So I was just showing up in practice. It was the weirdest time of my life, bro. It really was, because, like, dang, if you don't think I could play, then let me go.
Then let me go.
They obviously thought I could play because they didn't want to let me go. So it was a really weird time where finally that same year I ended up getting a new agent, Adisa Bakari, and we ended up forcing our hand out of there where we were just like, yo, we're gonna take it to the press eventually of like, yo, you just keeping this dude in the closet for no reason, man. Like he's healthy, he's doing everything he needs to do. So that year we ended up doing it was like a release and trade. We knew that Minnesota wanted me at the time. They were trying to find their new Jerick McKinney. Yeah. Right, they were trying to find their new Jerick McKinney, and they had just drafted Dalvin Cook like the year before, and they had Latavius Murray, but Dalvin was dealing with a lot of injury issues at the time. So it was like a sign and trade deal where they didn't want to trade to Minnesota in the conference. So I got released, and literally 10 minutes later, Minnesota's picking me up. So I ended up playing for Minnesota that year, which I ended up playing really well to tell them that year that really, like, honestly saved my career, bro. It saved my career because I was able to go in there and provide a third down presence where I want to say my completion percentage, like, and that those last like 8 games with Minnesota was like at like 87%, which was good. It was a reliable check down to Kirk where it's like 3rd and 4. I come up with a drop. Amir just got 12 yards for us on a 3rd and 4. You know what I mean? And Dalvin come do his thing. And that's where it kind of changed my mind of like, this is a market that I can really make my money on that 3rd down. No pun intended. You know what I mean?
Nah, I gotta commend you because I'd have been acting rambunctious in that probably about week 3. And I'm healthy scratch. Bro. And you gotta learn, right? You learn in the league that how you act can go a long way because everybody connected in some way. Everybody either talk, at the combine or your senior bowls, all that stuff. So, but still, hats off to you for being able to stay, good under pressure and kind of challenge your emotions because that's one thing we don't talk about. We talk about, but like isn't really addressed is. We are still we have emotions, we got feelings, and you trying me in my face. What do you expect at some point for me to address it?
Yeah.
And then when you do address it, everybody act like, "Oh, where's this
you
coming from?"
mad.
Yeah, like it's all on you. Like you mad. Like, come on,
where's
man.
this preposterous? Where's this coming from?
Yeah,
You know
where it is.
It's a quote. I think I don't know if Huey Newton said it or maybe Malcolm X, but it's only so long somebody got their foot on your neck before you break their leg. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I was in that situation so much, man. Like it wasn't easy, man. Like being that last year in Detroit, like having the camp I had, James. You know those camps you have where like
we practice against y'all too. We practice against y'all.
Yes, you know what I'm saying, bro. I was in my bag, bro. Like I felt like really, I was just seeing everything before it happened. Like you know, like when you go out on like a flat route and you like take a picture where the defense was, and you already know like when I catch it, I'm about to come back in. There's gonna be somebody coming from the inside out. I'm gonna dead leg him, cut one more time inside, hit the gas a little bit, see if I can get put some pressure on that safety. Like I was seeing it at that level that like, man, James, we will be in film sessions and we'll have those, film sessions in camps are the most intimate. Because everyone sees something. He's doing how Bill Belichick does it. We watch it as a team. Yep. It ain't no breakout to your running back room or to your offensive, positions. No, we watch it as a team, and it's like an elephant in the room where when I make a play, it will get real quiet. But the agenda was already in orchestrated. I could feel it. And it wasn't no hard feelings. It really wasn't. Like I love Carry On. I love Theoretic. I love LeGarrette. I just felt like I was finally hitting that prime. I was hitting that pattern in my career where I was like, I'm gonna give you a little bit more than they can give you right now. But Bob Quinn and Matty P, they had their plan that they wanted to, fulfill, which didn't work out. It didn't work out for him.
Where Bob Quinn came from New England too?
He was assistant GM in New England for a while. He was. Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tough, man.
It was tough, bro. It was tough, dog. It was tough. I was going home and cry, bro. Like legit, like go home and cry, just like what I do next. But my time in Minnesota, like playing those last 8 games, ended up getting an extension. Got an extension that year, so it was like bet new life. And then from there, I was able to transform and. Still, it was uphill battle. Like sharing a backfield, not being the guy. That was the first time that really I wasn't the guy anymore. I was a 2A, 2B sometimes. Playing in Minnesota. But I was able to make enough like splash plays periodically where teams knew like my value. And shoot, man, we're going into year 11 now, so.
It kind of
that's a blessing.
It's definitely a blessing. Kind of talk about that having to, accept your role. A lot of dudes not able to do that in the NFL, and that's why they get left on the wayside. They want to be the guy. They want to get all the targets. They want to get all the carries. They don't want to play special teams. Like talk about having to adjust from being that second round pick to getting waived or getting signed and traded to now. Look, I may have to run down on kickoff. Like I'm play third down, but I may have to run down play catch some punts. Like how that work?
Yeah, man. I think you said something really important. A lot of guys don't understand that having a role is not a demeaning thing. I think we carry a lot of pride. But another thing you said also, Sojourn, is we're emotional beings. I actually think football players are the most emotional people that you can be around. You know what I'm saying? I think the public outlook on us is like we're just these robotic shells of just like physical exertion. But to be able to like lock in, I think a lot of us lock in through our emotion, right? Through that anxiety. I think anxiety is closely like correlated to emotion. Like right before the snap, there's like this little hit of anxiety that every player gets that you can kind of channel into whatever emotional, expression that best suits you. Some people kind of just like, they fidget, their hands fidget a little bit. Some people got a tick. You see it a lot in linebackers or you see it a lot in D-line. Their legs are rocking. And I think a lot of times it's kind of not highlighted enough, like how emotional we are. Like we hit somebody or we make a big play. First thing we do is yell. We're not even thinking about
celebrate.
It. Yeah, it's a release. You know what I'm saying? But going back to your question a little bit, James, is I think a lot of people don't realize that having a role is actually the best thing that you can have in the NFL because it shows true intentionality for you or like intention of what they want to use you for. When you don't have a role is when you need to be worried. That's what any young player listening to this, if they don't come to you and say like, hey, we want you to do this role, or like, hey, we see you, even if it's special teams, we want you to be the 5 on kickoff and we think, you can excel at that, bro, be happy because if
they done carve the role out for you.
It's about to get real bleak, bro. It's the best thing you can have is conversation. The best you have is people actually interacting and saying a vision they have for you. Because once you're not in the visual conversation, that's when they start saying, how can we save money?
Yeah.
How can we cut costs? You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to be in that place. You really don't want to be in that place. And I learned that really fast because when I got to Minnesota, being the third down back in Minnesota, you got to play special teams. Yeah. And luckily, I was still one of the better kick returners in the league. So majority of my stuff was that. But I had to start playing gunner. And, bro, I had never done anything like that before.
It's a whole different world, too, bro.
It's the hardest position. It's the hardest it's the hardest one-play session in the entire game.
It's hardest, bro.
It is, bro.
Whole different world, dog.
Whole different world, especially if you get that vice. You get that vice.
Vice you over with. You might as well. Mine for your coach screaming, bro, beat the vice. Man, you get your old out. Get your old vice, bro.
What? Oh, listen, I've been dumped in a cooler a couple times. Now, I've been dumped in a cooler a couple times. Shout out to Matthew Slater for making an entire career.
Hey.
Getting paid.
Matt Slate and JB, Justin Bethel. Shout out to Justin Bethel, legit. I mean, Justin got paid and put himself in position to play corner from that.
They did nothing else. Yeah. You said the OG Steve Tasker as well. You know what I mean? Like, bro, they did nothing else. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine, like, Lily coming to the facility knowing I'm good? I just play good. Bro, what? That's love. That's kind of love.
That's love for sure.
Especially when you're on a championship team like the Patriots, like the run y'all was on, But I had to go out there and play gunner. And I think for me, I kind of was also going through a spiritual transformation at this time. You know what I mean? I got a lot closer to my own faith, and I got a lot closer to my own, like, mission statements or my own North Stars in life that I was like, what do I want to be as a man? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of us go through moments in life where maybe our egos are kind of like sliced by someone, placing a value on you, or maybe you don't get that job you want, or maybe you don't succeed at a pursuit or something that you saw, visually for yourself. And a lot of guys, we go through these moments where these ego deaths happen. And I feel like in every obstacle that we face, there's an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I was faced with an obstacle of, like, I can be one of those guys like, man, I don't play no gunner, bro. Like, what's going on? Or I can double down on, like, bro, this is another like character XP on this video game of life that I'm playing, that I can gain these new skills of being a dog. Because like, gunner work is dog work. I was like, God is putting this opportunity in front of me right now to build my dogness, to really, like, because, like, if football is the hardest thing you face in life, you're not really living. You know what I mean? You're not really facing no real hardship, man. There's real things going on out here that you got to be, quote unquote, a dog through. And if I'm mad because I got to go out there for one play and cover a punt, doing my dream, you know what I mean, for my job, bro, well, then who am I? Who am I, bro? What am I saying about myself? I'm too good for this? Where does that slippery slope end? If I'm too good to go cover a punt, am I going to be too good to take care of my kid at this certain time, or be there at this certain time for my family? So I feel like it's a slippery slope when you start to say, like, I don't deserve this, or I should be doing that. So it was a very instrumental time in my life where I thank God I had the community, I had my family around me, and I had the wherewithal and the connectivity, the source at that time to see the opportunity of, like, nah, this is a lesson that's going to serve me better than just playing a game of football, man. I got to lock in and embrace that, because, as a third down back, I'm going from blocking somebody, and then if we don't convert,
going out there, bro.
I'm tired. I'm tired. Woe is me. Everybody tired out here, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dog, lock in, go get it done. And it actually allowed me to build some of the best relationships that I've had in the league because special teams is the core. That's really the glue of the team. Those
That's
are the
where you're gonna
dudes
make.
who are
That's where
most
a lot
like
of dudes make it.
level-headed. They're the most like down to earth because like they understand like I'm doing the blue collar work that a lot of people don't really see. You know what I mean? So there's like this vulnerability or this shield that's dropped from them naturally when you talk to them in the locker room. They're like, I'm just an average guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm just an average guy. And I like being around that type of like mentality and energy. So it also humbled me to like really work on building relationships. You know what I mean? And like sustaining relationships. I still talk to a lot of these cats that I was on the core, you know, these core units with from all these teams I played for, from Minnesota to the Raiders to Detroit. You know what I'm saying? That like will be lifelong friendships now that like for me, I feel like if you see that opportunity in the obstacle, as opposed to like, oh man, my ego's hurt now, I'm about to shut down, it's going to serve you worth a lot of value in the long term.
Yeah. Before we get, I want to ask you. Obviously, football is just a part of our life. What's Ameer into outside when you leave that building and you got your free time and you got your personal time to yourself? What you getting into?
Yeah, man. So I'm into film. You know, I'm into film. I've always been a shooter. Even in high school, I worked with the yearbook committee to put all the photos and stuff together with the SGA. I was always the guy with the camera shooting like weddings, graduations, stuff like that. I've always
that cheese at too.
Yeah,
that's what that cheese at.
Oh, it is. It's some good money in film. Some good money in film if you do it right. For me, I've always, not always, but I would say like really like midway through college, you know, most of my friends were like artists. Like even to this day, like, yeah, I hang out with a lot of guys who play football naturally because we're in a fraternity. But where I feel the most like understood is with people who are like musicians, painters, other photographers, cinematographers, actors as well. So I kind of like say that by trade, I'm an athlete, but by spirit, I'm an artist. You know what I'm saying? I feel like football has kind of just become one stroke of my paintbrush at life where like kids can see how I played and pattern their game afterwards. And it can be like inspiration. But for me, I'm into film, man. I'm a creative director, producer, acting. I just acted last year in my first Lionsgate produced film. It's called Breaking the Cycle. It's coming out this summer. I actually was acting in a television show earlier this year that we shot abroad in Amsterdam and also in London. But for me, writing screenplay, being a camera operator as a DP, director, photographer, and acting is kind of new for me. I'm actually, you know, warming up to the idea of acting because I've always been the guy shooting as opposed to being in front of the camera. But that's how I spend most of my time. And if you go to my IG, I make a lot of my content more cinematic just because I feel like life is art and being a human is art, and inviting people to like embrace that as well is something that allows people to like enjoy the monotonous things that we do every single day. You know what I mean? So yeah, outside of football, bro, I'm a filmmaker.
No, that's dope, man. I definitely be tapped into the content. You had a little cardio conversations. I think that's
You know, so I live in Vegas now. I live in Vegas, and I see David Goggins a lot. Actually, he lives in Vegas. Y'all know who David Goggins is, right?
No.
I don't know. No.
Man, so David Goggins is like this, I guess, lifestyle mentality influencer who he was a Navy SEAL who used to have me. I think he might. I don't think he was a diabetic, but he was overweight. But he cut all this weight, and he's trained this mentality of just like he won't quit, right? So he does all these crazy like runs where he'll run for 100 miles straight. 100 miles, run straight while videotaping. He's done all these like crazy, right? He's done all these like strongest man competitions, and he does a lot of this stuff in Las Vegas. And I always go on this hike in Red Rock in Las Vegas, and I see him every now and then, and I'll see him running. So like he's really living that life. Like he ain't just like just doing it. What's that one fighter?
I know you're talking about. I don't know how to say his name.
I forgot to say his name. he thought David Goggins was BSing, right? So he went and trained with him, broke Buddy down, him down.
That's
He
the Izzy. So I seen that clip.
That's
I have
David
seen that
Goggins.
clip with him
That's
there.
David Goggins. So I saw him one day when I was out there, man. I didn't want to bother him, but I watched him, you know what I'm saying? And he went up and down this hill probably like, no lie, 40 times, bro. You know? And I was just like, you know what? I think something, so I used to do these vlogs called Durag Talks. But I was like, you know, I think something that people would appreciate is me just giving my perspective on certain mental and psychological battles that as the masses we all collectively kind of go through while exercising. So I can kill two birds with one stone. You know, encourage people to get out and move, and then also, you know, get us some game along the way. You know what I mean? Because that's really what David Goggins is doing. You know, a lot of people, you know, they kind of meet his content kind of like, oh, he's showing off or he's like doing this with David Goggins. But I'm like, he really lived that life. And I think the people who understand it will receive it. So, like, that's where the cardio conversations kind of came from. But, yeah, man.
No, that's dope, man. We appreciate you tapping in with us. It's a dope episode.
Sure.
We definitely got a lot of
come
gems.
back, too. Gotta come back, too.
Yeah, for sure.
I do have to say this last thing because we didn't fully circle back to it.
That ass whooping.
Listen, farm, bro, it was crazy. So I always felt like Wisconsin was our Achilles heel. They were our Achilles heel, man, because the one year that we beat y'all at our place, we wore, you know, wore those special jerseys. I was like, I think we finally got the recipe. And then y'all had an actual average year that year.
Yeah,
Pretty average year, but somehow y'all snuck backdoored into the Big Ten championship. But we get to that game, we like a 10-win team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we like, oh, we about to stomp. We about to really step. But we got smacked that game. And then the next year, I want to say my junior year, we lost to y'all. Y'all came to our place or something. Was that? I think did we play y'all this year?
Y'all played the following year.
Senior year, we come there, and the game before, I'm pissed because I just sprained my MCL, and I'm like, all right, I got to go crazy, though. Melvin go for 450. Melvin go for 450 in the snow. Belt to ass. And I'm just like, dog, bro, we just can't beat Wisconsin. So I'm going to say this right now. Shout out to the Wisconsin Badgers. Because y'all built more character in this young man than y'all ever knew. Because the sad coach showers that I took after those games every single time had me second guessing life, had me second guessing my career. And I'm just like, if it wasn't for y'all, who knows? I wouldn't even be playing no more. You know what I mean? I probably wouldn't have had the resolve to keep going. So thank you. Badgers,
you said some real, because I think 2 years after that, me and Warren, we try to block, Warren not here, but we try to block that game out. We ran into O State in the Big Ten championship, and they dropped. I don't even remember the score, bro. It might have been 56.
I remember.
Yeah. So but 50. Oh, so I said 50. They dropped 60.
They dropped about 70 balls.
60 to zeros.
Never bet on
that was a tough. Amir, that was a tough. Boy, let me tell you, that was a tough time in my life, dog. I ain't never. Bro, you want to talk about embarrassed, fam? I ain't want to show my face nowhere.
What is it like to be defending when your offense don't score no points? I know y'all gotta be. I ain't gonna
lie. I knew we was gonna get gunt though. You play that Saturday when you go to the Big Ten championship. You have like the media and all that stuff on that Sunday. So that Sunday we came in, and after we did all the media, we had like a 2:00 team meeting and stuff like that. So we walk in, and they brought up the game plan. In my head, I said, "Oh yeah, this not gonna be good." We running cover 0 the whole game, like, because we trying to tie. Because when you play O State, you got to tie that safety into the run game because they had Zeke and Cardell. So man, it was a 0 that whole game, bro. That's why the score was like that.
Who was their quarterback?
Cardell
Jones. That's when he came out and threw. But he went on a legendary run.
He played the best game ever.
Then he did that the following week to Bama. Like, so at that point, I was like, we good. But at the same time, that built character for sure. Because I ain't never got whooped.
Yeah, they do. It build character. It really do, man. It really do. It give you this perspective of like, it ain't over till it's over. You know?
Gonna beat you down, man. We all go through it though at some point.
Yeah, you do,
We all
bro.
done dealt with one of those, man. But we definitely appreciate you tapping in with us, man. It was a dope episode, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate y'all.
it.